I have always felt that I could be arrested, given the type of work I was doing. Not only working as a journalist, but I was as well working as a human rights activist. Some people don't even want, politics or Jambi's name to be mentioned or discussed in their homes for fear that, they could be arrested. They can come and pick you up at your place of work, or what they would do is they would lay in ambush very close to where you're working. They will just come, grab you, put you on board the vehicle. Your throat becomes dry, your heart is beating faster, you're perspiring, you're scared, you're worried that the worst could happen. It was a climate of fear everywhere you go.
My name is Antiman Gay. I'm a barrister at law. I joined the Gambia judiciary under Sadaro Jawara. The Jawara regime was quite democratic. I'm not saying that it was 100% clean, but in terms of human rights, his government was second to none in the whole of Africa. In 1994, his government was overthrown, and we had the Jammeh regime. Jammeh in particular became very intolerant and very, very abusive. He divided the country into two groups, those who were for him and those who were his enemies. Things just got worse and worse. A lot of Gambians, unfortunately, had to leave the country to save themselves, their families, and in some cases, their lives.
Human rights violation in the Gambia in the past 22 years has been very rampant. There was frequent detention of personalities without trial and disappearances without trace. The situation worsened to the extent that there were many, many victims.
It was a nightmare to work as a journalist in the Gambia under the Jammeh era. Journalists at the time could be described as endangered species. A lot of journalists were arrested, tortured, detained. Deda Haidara was one of the members of the Gambia Press Union. He was a critic of the Jammeh regime and was gunned down by members of Jammeh's assassin team. The disappearance of Chief Ibrahim Mane, who was a staff reporter for the Daily Observer, came 2 years down the line.
Chief is my brother. He was arrested in July 2006. He liked journalism. He had been practicing it since he was going to school. He liked talking to people. He wanted to know people's problems, and he wanted to fight for people. He wrote an article about the term limit of the presidency, which was agreed on AU summit. But when we see that that was not happening in the Gambia, he have to write about that. So that was the cause of his arrest from his office. I was told that he was later taken to the NIA. From there, he was taken to the Central Prison Mile 2.
Afa be balajato Kenya ani nteme nga wulu nga abalajato kontolo nyami afa be manke kanya wa for force wala mnyende bungu fela amambando ninde unta nade umbunda obunda na kalamuta ngafaye akataja ayasolu ibenyoju bele nyami ani ebulo di nyole nyami nkawle cheki fon silon du soto no wokono
Not only did we feel sad, but then it sent shivers down our spines, because we knew at the time that if Jamaica could resort to killing these people, the same thing could happen to us. I was incarcerated at the Mile 2 prison, which is one of the worst prisons in the country. But I have always had this belief that if we want to make this world a better place, there must be people that are willing to sacrifice. And this was something that motivated people like me and several other journalists to stay in country, because we felt that there should be people who should amplify the voice of the voiceless.
Foria is a Mandinka word, one of the ethnic groups in the Gambia, meaning freedom. Foria saw it necessary to intensify its effort in exposing any human rights violation, especially when it relates to imprisonment without trial and such other violations, including executions. This story about Chief Ibrahim Mane, who disappeared in 2006, was important because the state remained silent over the issue for a long period of time, and it was necessary that we monitor the situation and expose it so that everybody will be aware.
Imentela mara kote afata mafureoje malo mi yafa sa nyina mentela miro ti yafa dawoda ya funti ni nya jentelo ne sidimo leti pour ka salala ka bade wala mentela miro ti.
It can be very difficult And in fact, it's the most difficult job as an imam to work under dictatorship, especially a brutal dictator like Yahya Jammeh. As a religious person, you are expected to say the truth as it is. You have to be very careful. How do you prepare your sermons? How do you preach? Where to go? When to go? And even when you deliver your message, no matter how honest this message is, you will never sleep. The main thing that I was arrested is that when he decided to execute the inmates from the prison, he called all the imams and he told them he's going to kill these detainees and he don't want anybody to beg him not to do that. So the following day, I went to the leading imam in the Gambia called Imam Ratib. I asked him to mount up a campaign so that we'll meet the president and we'll ask him not to do that. He said he cannot do that. They are not to do that. He will never do that. Then I decided to call a press conference. I speak my mind. I asked the president not to kill them. My arrest in 2012 was not the first one, but it was the most difficult one. It was not only to be arrested, but it was an abduction. A team of 11 people came and took me to a place that I don't know. And they make me naked and take me to a very dark jail. They start beating me, hitting me, shocking electricity, and all was not in my body. So the 9th day, they took me behind and there was a big hole. They asked me to dig it deeper. It's just like a grave. So I dig it deeper. They said, that's your graves. I said, that's fine. So they asked me to lie down there, naked. I did. So they buried my body up to my chest. They said, today is your final day. You are going to be killed and you will never be seen forever.
I started taking on cases that were deemed to be unpopular, which Jammeh and his supporters saw as challenging his rule. If there was anything I can do as a lawyer to stand up for the rights of people, regardless of what would happen to me, I would do it. That was what led me into taking a lot of these human rights cases against the police, cases against the army, because everybody was just abusing everybody.
I decided to follow in my father's footsteps because I've always been fascinated about the law. Because of those cases that he does, I sort of also continued taking on those kind of cases and developed a passion and a feel for it. People just kept on asking and warning us to be careful. You're not worried about your safety taking on these kind of cases. Your dad should be careful. But then we did not see that fear.
Bad as it was, we were in there fighting for them. And personally, I have no regrets for taking on those cases.
There was a time you feel that you can't breathe. You are so suppressed that You cannot do anything. It was very, very frustrating. I went to a point that I just had enough. I stopped writing a lot because the articles, you feel that it was not having any impact, because even if you write something, you take it to the newsroom, they water it down. We formed this blog, I think, more than 5 years back. What we do with the blog is called Front Page International. We use it to put articles out there which has to do with press freedom violations and freedom of expression violations. So if a journalist is arrested or a media house has been shut down or something happens which has to do with freedom of expression violation, we just put it there so that the information can be out there and people can easily share it. I was under a lot of pressure from my family. My mom was never comfortable with my work. She was a bit scared because she was really worried about it. So most of the time she wanted me to quit. I was never satisfied with what was happening. I want the situations to change. And also I like seeing justice to be done. So every time when I think about it, I feel like I have to do something. So that keeps me going. Right now we are in Westfield. It's the center in Banjul. So the place is very important and significant to most Gambians because this is where the April 14 protest happens.
My dad and other young Gambians thought it was right for them, as it was enshrined in the Constitution of the Gambia, to just stand out and say whatever they think is not right, to have a peaceful protest. They went out on the 14th of April, 2016, to protest peacefully for electoral reforms.
Ibrahim Sulu Sanding was arrested, taken to the NIA, and it later emerged that he had died whilst in the custody of the NIA.
He thought he needed to liberate Gambia, and that was his task. He thought he should be part of those people who would be on the right side of history.
What happened thereafter showed that the Gambian people really had enough. When Zini Dabo and his executive and other supporters were all rounded up, taken to jail, people just manifested their frustration.
I believe that that was the catalyst for everybody to sit back and think, are we going to continue to allow these things to happen? Because we've had incidents that have happened before, but we hadn't reached that threshold of enough is enough. We need to fight back. I got involved in human rights work, particularly because of the incident of the April 14th women. A group of lawyers volunteered their services to come together to provide legal representation for those who had been arrested and detained. We were led by Mr. Antuman Gay. So it was one of those defining moments where so many people came together to fight a cause, which took away the fear element. When we finally managed to speak to them and they told us their stories, it was really quite horrific. They were stripped naked, they were humiliated, they were beaten, they were subjected to all kinds of emotional, physical, mental torture. As a profession, we shouldn't sit back and allow all the people who were arrested that day, we shouldn't sit back and allow such people to be punished for something which, at the end of the day, I think they were fighting for all of us.
Suso. Naka def? Eh? Nanga def? How are you? Mendi fine. There were some lawyers who felt that the crackdown on protesters was high-handed, and we decided to put an end to impunity and decided to go and represent them pro bono.
This is Juguna Suso. She was one of those who was arrested on the 16th. They were arrested and subsequently detained at the Mile 2 prisons.
This woman, wall in the wall, best lawyer. This woman. Yaya Jammeh kenn ñemeñu ko parce que du moom daf dee kibir di ñii best lawyer in the Gambia. Gambian lawyer, woman lawyers Gambia. ñeme nañ ragaluñ dara. Yaya Jammeh lu mel ñii ragaluñ leen. We were fully aware that they had not gone against the law, and we felt that they needed to be protected, particularly where the women were involved, because you had a few women who had left their families behind, their children, and they had done nothing wrong. We faced a lot of challenges, both from the courts as well as threats from unknown personnel. I felt that I could have been arrested at any time. In fact, I had two bags, one in the office and one in my car. In the event I'm arrested, at least I have my toiletries and certain things, sanitary towels, etc. in that bag so that I can go with it to wherever I was to be detained. But I was always ready.
During the whole process, I think we had more failures than successes. We had some really, really bad days, and we had days where you feel like you're not making a difference. But we never gave up. So even when they were convicted and there was judgment against them, we filed appeals, we prepared the records, we did all of that, and we never gave up. Most people couldn't get jobs. Education wasn't where it's supposed to be. It had gotten to the point where really the average Gambian to put one meal on the table was quite difficult. I think generally it was a very difficult period for Gambians.
When people don't have anything to do, they look for options. A lot of people decided to go on the back way, which is the illegal migration. A lot of people decided to stay and be more engaged when it comes to the issues that are happening in the country also. So what most of the young people did was they became politically active. So then you have social media. We have people created a lot of WhatsApp groups to discuss issues. Then you have people also create a lot of Facebook groups also that encourage people to go out and register. And even on, when the elections were coming, a lot of people were going in the ground, encouraging their colleagues to vote, which helps to change the whole situation in the Gambia.
On December 1st, Gambians came out in their numbers and voted for change. I am one of the initiators of the movement, #movement called Gambians Decided. Gambians Decided was started in the aftermath of the December 1st elections. On the 2nd of December, Gambians successfully removed Yaya Jammeh and elected President Adam Barrow.
When that happened, the whole country erupted. So that 1 week that we had, that freedom we had, that was the first time we woke up from the coma that we were in for 22 years.
I believe around the 8th of December or thereabouts, the ex-president Jammeh came back on TV and decided to unilaterally cancel the elections, thereby trying to take and usurp the voice of the Gambian people.
Let me repeat, I will not accept the results based on what has happened.
So I called up a few friends of mine and asked them to think of how can we ensure our vote for change is respected and maintained. We created a conduit for the voice of Gambians to be heard at a very, very difficult time when there was a political impasse.
Before, it was unthinkable to have anything that is even remotely against Yahya Jammeh in Gambia. At the workshop, all the billboards was printed. This Gambia Has Decided poster came up when we were brainstorming, because we started with the t-shirts, and then I suggested that we do some billboards around town. So towards the end, the authorities saw that it was very effective, and they decided to bring them down, because we had some at Westfield, which is like our Tahrir Square. That was really when I knew that the movement has really succeeded in its achievement in making people aware of it, because I had people calling me, and they were so angry, as if it was their own property they were ripping off. I felt happy, because we wanted the movement to be for all Gambians, to take ownership.
So when they started bringing the billboards down, the go around and paint over that graffiti. Look at that.
You can see.
This happened because we couldn't do this. We were not allowed to wear our t-shirts. We were not allowed to put up billboards. That's why this happened. And it's beautiful that now we're able to stand here, walk around with our shirts, and not be scared that when we get home tonight, we would be picked up.
Gambians Decided was a reflection of what Gambians collectively decided. So Gambians took over. It took its own life.
Yeah.
Do swear to execute the function of the office of the President of the Republic of the Gambia, that I will preserve and defend the Constitution according to law, without fear or favor, affection or ill will. So help me God.
The moment that Dabo was released on bail together with his fellow convicts was an amazing moment where people sang the national anthem and everyone jubilated in the courts. It was just an amazing. People were no longer afraid. People could now do their work freely and not fear the repercussions.
As a human rights lawyer, this symbolizes victory for the people, the downtrodden masses who have been traumatized by a dictatorial regime for over 22 years. I think the story of Juguna and others is one that must be told, and it's one that should not be replicated in Africa.
My hopes are of democracy or human rights in the new Gambia is that victims of the ex-government are given justice by bringing Yahya Jammeh and his accomplices to book, and also for the government to grant the citizens what we've been denied of for the past 22 years, which are freedom of speech, freedom of press, and also being able to give our ideas out to the government without being persecuted or to be seen as enemies of the state or the government.
The human rights defenders have played a tremendous role. I think they built the foundation. These are the heroes who really helped Gambia attain its freedom. Solo Sendeng died for us to be free, for sure. At some point, any Gambian could have died for no reason. So we owe a debt of gratitude for all these great heroes and martyrs who really built up the momentum. We came at the tail end to do our little bit.